everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today I'm going to be doing some colouring in with Spectrum Noir's graphic and illustrator markers. The paper that I'm going to be using is the Ryman's 210 GSM A4 art card. It's an interesting card because if you photocopy it the wrong way it goes blue, so it's quite a fun one. So why am I colouring? It's actually moving a load of rubbish off the table. I'm going to be colouring in some tags that I've made, and these are little doodles that I've done, and I put a load of them onto an A4 sheet. This is a sheet that I use to clean the printer, and then I've trimmed around them once they've printed on the card, and that's given me lots of cutesy little designs. Now the reason I'm going with the Spectrum Noir pens, the graphic and the illustrator, is mostly because they're dual tipped like Copics are, and with the graphic, which is the grey one, you get a chisel and a normal nib, so chisel there and a kind of bullety tip there, and then it's actually trying to get one out, they come in these little holders. Then with the illustrator you get a slightly thinner bullet tip and then a chunkier one, which I believe they call a brush. So those are the markers I'm going to be using. Sorry about the fluffiness of my sleeves, so they go a little less fluffy. It's a bit cold in the UK right now. So the image that I want to do today is, where is it? This one. Now, I know that looks like it's got teeny weeny detail, bear with me. But basically with markers like this, these alcohol markers, you can get that level of detail in. So what I'll do is I'll move the rest of my taggies over there. Now, why am I making the tags and not colouring them in Photoshop? Well, actually these tags are all going to be for customers to colour in. So when I have a little stall at Christmas or even just normal, then I will sell these at about 10 pence, that's UK pence each, and that will cover well and truly the cost of the paper, because there's 9, I get 9 of these per sheet, and it's about 10 to 12 pence a sheet of paper, sometimes 20 pence if I'm going for the more expensive stuff. But that way I'm recouping my costs back quite well. I've got several sets of these, from fan art ones which I'll be selling at the Weymouth Comic Con in March, through to just little designs like this. So because I'm using markers, I'm going to make sure I've got a sheet underneath, because there's going to be bleed through. Now this is basically going to be a demo piece, so on my table I'm going to have a present wrapped like so, and then I'll have the tag attached, and I'll probably have some ribbon flowers, and it's just to show off what you can do with the markers and the tags to inspire. So colour wise I'm thinking a navy in the background, normal reindeerish colour, and then I really do actually want to use these water inks from Spectrum Noir as well, and add in the tiny fine detail, and that way we got a bit of shimmer on there as well. So colour wise, now I know with Spectrum Noir you can't go by the lid, so what's on the cap isn't the colour that's inside there. That's quite a greeny blue. Actually, I know. Tilt this one. I haven't got my colour swatch page either. So we'll start with this blue. Now, you'll notice I'm using the brush nib. It's just something I'm more comfortable with. And I'm going to move the image, which is my way of doing things. Now, with alcohol markers, and depending on what cardstock you've got, you will get a certain amount of bleed, so just be aware of that. So At times it's best not to go right up to the edge of an image. Just see how far the bleed goes, and then you can backfill. So I've got a tiny bit of that. I like this blue. And I'm working quite fast because once they start drying, I don't want any lining marks on there. But I can come through with another colour or the colourless blender and kind of fix any marks. And you basically, with these, you don't need to put really any pressure on the paper. You can almost hover above the paper. So no pushing down or anything like that with these. They're very, very, very juicy. And that's as focused as my camera's going to get, I'm afraid. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can bleed it back or bleach it out with the colourless blender. Talking of which, because I've got a few sets of these, I've got 2 of the blenders. So I'm actually going to bring this one in because I can see a tiny weeny. But I don't want to use much because I don't want to push it into the blue. So once again, little works and goes a long way. So I'm just going to, that's just so that I don't lose the spot. So for the reindeer, let's see, I want something light, quite natural, caramelish. And I'm going to go and not colour in every single part. This one's a little bit dry, don't quite know why, not really used these pens much, but we'll get over it. And I'm actually going to use this on the antlers as well. Now you'll notice I'm going in between. In fact, I'm going to change to the bullet point there. There we go, that's how I can get into that really ultra fine detail. I just found it here. And when I say about the bleed, there you go, that's the bleed. So to combat this, because if somebody goes and buys one of these and colours it themselves with markers, and then I turn it over to write on it and there's that, then I'm going to be happy. So what I will do is I'll get some spray adhesive and some more coloured card probably, and then plonk it onto there, and that will solve that issue. Right, let's see, so we've got caramel, so I want something that's going to complement that. Slightly darker colour, I believe this one is. So this is a more kind of, this is said to be gold. It's kind of like an apricot colour. So I'm just going to add in the shading. Once again, that bullet nib gives you a lot of movement and flexibility. I can get right up into there for the detail. And these images that I've got, these are all my own drawings, hand drawn. I don't do digital art. It hurts my eyes too much, so it's not feasible. So it's hand drawing all the way. And then I'm just going over that colour just to blend it and make sure that it stays really nice and soft. I don't want any majorly harsh lines. And I'll put a little bit, make sure a little bit's near. I'm using this caramel colour just on the white areas to indicate a little bit of shadow. Because white isn't white, it's often different greys and creams. Now to soften that bit out, again I'm bringing that colourless blender and I'm just giving a couple of wipes, not too much. That tail floof is showing. There we go. Now, around the lantern, I am going to use a colourless blender, but very carefully, and using a slow circular motion, because I just want some of this area to be a little bit lighter. Okay. I'm just going to soften out those marks. There we go. And that's one way. That's one way of creating a halo effect. So next I need a red. Now red, if you use alcohol markers, you'll know that red can be a little bit unpredictable and that it can be very juicy and you can get other issues with it where it's too strong. Now if I use a bullet tip and a tiniest bit of pressure, I shouldn't have a problem. This is literally just dabbing that colour on. And instead of using another red to add any shading to that, I'm using a brown. And then I'll blend back out with that red. But like I said, only the tiniest amounts, because I don't want it to bleed out of those areas and into other areas of the drawing. And for those little hooves, we're going to do them in a gold. So you see quite nice light colours. I'm going to push the tonal layers a little bit more. I've got some tones in there, but maybe not as rich as I would like to go. That's the lovely thing about markers, is you can blend backwards and forwards. With the sketch, I have added in some of the deer anatomy. So where the spine is, where the hips are. And I was lucky that where I live, they often bring reindeer into some of the parks. So I got to see reindeer up close and personal, which is always lovely. They're beautiful, beautiful animals. There we go. Push it back a little bit. As long as you're pushing back with a lighter colour, then it'll just bleach it out a little bit. Right, there we go. So I'm happy with my deer. That's how quick and easy using these type of markers can be, and on a high detail drawing or sketch. Literally minutes. So the background, need to neaten that up, don't we? So I'm not going to take a black pen because black can be too strong sometimes, and I don't want to lose too much of detail. So from that blue, and that was cobalt blue. That's a nice blue. I'm now going to add on a kind of darky. This is a navy blue. So so you can see. So it'd be interesting to see. Now this ink here should have dried, so I shouldn't have any worries about there being too much bleed. And this time I'm going a little bit more carefully. So I've got my first layer down. This is a darker colour, so we shouldn't have really any bleed issues. And what I'll do is I'll come through again with that cobalt blue to soften up any marks. Now for this image, I don't mind there being like little textural marks in the background, because at night, the night isn't just one colour and you do have textures. If you're walking through a wood at night, it won't be pitch black. There'll often be different shades of greys, greens, blues. It's quite fascinating. I used to walk through a wood at night, kind of 11:30 at night, and you could see the shadows of the deer as they walked past. Or in some cases leapt past. Yeah, deer can be scary at night, because when they just bound straight past you, it's like, did they actually see me? So around that bit, I'm going to add only the tiniest little bit of darkness. We'll come back to that soon. So this time I'm using less straight lines. I'm using more random marks to keep that texture. Because these pens are so juicy, they just keep on going on. What's that colour? Let's add a true blue. So this one's a bit darker. Now because I'm going on to a much wetter ink, I've just got to be a little bit more careful. I'm not worried about where the hole's going to be because it's easier to do it without the hole, and then I can come through and just punch a hole once I've mounted this one onto its next layer. Now this is the third layer of the blue, and you should be, hopefully when I lift it up to the camera, you'll see how smooth that's come in. This is the main reason I love alcohol markers. You can do so much with them, and you can get so much control. This one's very juicy blue, which is really handy. It's a tricky bit. You don't have to work fast with markers in truth, but for me I find it essential because I want to catch the ink while it's wet. There we go. In fact, I've got quite a good effect here. So I'm hoping the camera will show it, but you can see this part is very smooth. But we've got texture in here where I've allowed it to dry just a tiny bit. And then with that little glow, I think that's come out pretty well. So I was going to add some gold onto this. Now I need, let's see, I'm looking for, ooh, that's not one, is it? Yeah, that is. Right. This is a very fine brush, and I'm going to add the Spectrum Noir metallic water reactive paint to certain areas here. It's going to be the tiniest amount, and that's because I literally just want it as pinpoints. So I'm thinking of going for, let's go for gold plate. So first job, shake. I'm doing up, down, side to side, wiggle round. Good wrist exercise. I'm tapping it to get any bubbles out. There we go. Now I'm going to take this straight from the lid. You can use a palette, but I'm just lazy. So I've got a tiny brush. Idealistically, a rigger brush would be really good for this. And rigger brushes are the ones that are really long, and they were designed for painting rigging on boats. Now where else can I put this? So on those teeny weeny little jingle bells. I'll take a little bit from the pot. I'm going to let it dry a little bit and then come over with another layer. And with the Spectrum Noir metallic paint stuff that I'm using, you can put Sharpie markers over it. And that's the only marker I've found so far that I can kind of add over it. But again, we've still got testing to do. There we go. And I'm also going to put some on his little hoofies. Alright, so where else was there? I don't need any on the tinsel, so I'm just going to now come back over that first bit on the lantern. Just make sure that's nice and strong. And this ink dries super fast. So let's bring them up. Hopefully you might be able to see a bit of that shimmer. It looks better in real life, of course. So I could really do with the inside of that area being whiter. So I'm going to put this brush half on it, keep it wet. I'll wash my brush out in a few seconds. They wash out really easily as well. Put that in that. And also, even though you think you've put a tiny bit on, you get a huge amount of paint actually on the brushes. So just be aware that you can get more paint on your brush than you're expecting. So I'm looking for the pen, the blender. Again, chisel end. Now, considering I've got this ink on here, I'm going to use the alcohol to bleach out that middle bit of the light. And you'll see when I've finished, hopefully we should have a really, really nice effect. And I can get rid of the dark blue halo that sometimes comes up. Just push it just in the right places. And I'm literally just holding it down for a second or two, or 3. I'm going to bring it onto the deer as well, because of course the light's reflecting all the way around. A couple of very, very, very light little speckles. And that's good, the metallic ink hasn't been picked up by the pen, so that's really, really good. Now I don't want that blue to come too far near the deer, so I'm gonna just clear that bit. So kind of it's pushing it one way, then pushing it and bringing it to the other. There we go. I'm gonna bring that glow slightly more round and push that back again. Now, the glow from the candle isn't going to be white. Well, it's going to have a little bit of white to it. So I'm going to bring in what I'm hoping is the right colour, which is daffodil. Now this is a light colour again, so it will have a slight bleaching effect. And, oh, it's a little bit too bright. Okay, that's fixable. Okay, and you're probably thinking, oh my god, how are you going to fix that? Blender it. I'm going to push it back through the paper. Couple of seconds while it's still wet. And I'm putting the marker in areas where the daffodil is directly, but also indirectly. That means that I get little patches of the bright white and then the other colours. I'm going to bring that little circle out a bit. This is, I would say, the more time consuming bit. It's just making that bit perfect. I'm going to push that bit blue right back. Now, if you feel that you've got too much of a dark edge, come back in with your blue and just do your lightest blue and just put a couple of spots around there. And for me, that'll do. So there we have a Spectrum Noir coloured reindeer carrying a lantern with metallic paints and the Spectrum Noir pens. So I hope this has helped inspire you guys to have a go with these pens. and get creative, make something new, original, and you never know where it'll take you. So I wonder where this reindeer's going. So thank you very much for popping by, and please keep being creative. All the best, take care, and happy drawing to you all.